Aries, welcome to your November 2020 Astro Transit Update. It's Raina here. So, as we begin the month of November, your ruler Mars is still retrograde. Now, this is your first house of the self, and so you might feel like your hands are tied, like you want to do something, but you can't, like you want to advance your life, but you can't. Now, for the average person, this can feel very frustrating, but for Aries, this can be downright maddening, where you are chomping at the bit. Well, good news. Mars goes direct in November. Before I get to that particular transit, I just want to state that the sun is in your 8th house for the first few weeks of the month. So you feel that sense of the intensity of life. You may be delving into metaphysics, the deeper mysteries of life. And actually, Mercury went retrograde in this house, so you may have even been researching something along these lines. But then Mercury went back into Libra at some point in October. And this is your 7th house of committed partnerships. So, and also legal affairs. So there might have been something to do with a contract. If you had any kind of, I don't know, like a will, the 8th house can be shared resources or child support issues, or I don't know, do they have alimony still? Or just like whatever, I asked everybody in the past, I don't know what they call when you get divorced and they are separating the money. It's not called the estate. I mean, that's called, when somebody has died. So I don't know when a marriage has died what they call it, but whatever that money is, the pot of money. Somebody actually did write and tell me what it was, but I forgot. That might be in play for some of you, some kind of legal settlement. And Mercury does go direct in that legal house on the 3rd of the month. So that might be a time when you get it all sorted out and are able to move forward. But with Mars in your sign, you have to really, watch your tendency to be quite aggressive, although it's really when Mars is retrograde that you don't feel that same sort of fighting spirit. You might feel like you have to kind of swallow your anger and not, your hands may be tied, even though you want to move your life forward. On the 10th, Mercury goes back into Scorpio, where it began its retrograde motion. And so something gets sorted out that has to do with a will, some kind of shared resources, maybe a loan, taxes, what have you. On the 13th, you have Mars stationing direct, 15 degrees of Aries. And I feel like this is a good time to mention that I have done a series of videos on the green light portal from this time when Mars stations direct until late January, till the end of January of 2021, when all the personal planets will be direct. And this is kind of a green light from the universe to start new projects. We've had a lot of retrogrades in 2020. So in addition to shutdowns that were not directly related to retrogrades, but still exerted the same sort of influence. And so now is the time to do what you came here to do, whatever that may be. And you may feel this sense of like, yeah, baby, I want to do this or I want to do that. And like I said, chomping at the bit, just to get your life moving forward, in a general sort of way. Since it is your ruler, that just makes it much more so the case. On the 15th, we have a new moon at 23 degrees of Scorpio, and this will be in that 8th house, so new beginnings. Have you been, studying astrology, the tarot, Aries, or anything of this kind of, in this nature, metaphysical concepts? This is kind of like the phoenix rising from the ashes type of energy of like a new creature, that you are a new creature. And maybe you've been through baptism by fire, especially with Mars retrograde. The judgment card is connected to Pluto, and this is one of the rulers of Scorpio in the 8th house. So, along with Mars. So, there may be some kind of rebirth that is in store for you. On the 21st, we have two important transits. Venus going into that 8th house, so that can be money that is coming to you from the shared resources sector. And the Sun going into Sag, the 9th house, another house connected to the spiritual area of life, but more organized religion, philosophy, how you feel, what you feel your life, the purpose of your life is. And the Sun here is really like maybe even your direction, maybe having to do with career matters, your identity, your sense of self. Friendly angle, fellow fire sign, my sun sign, yeah, baby. On the 22nd, I was going to say the 22nd. On the 28th, Neptune turns direct at 22 degrees of Pisces, 12th house. So you always have these transits when a planet is in its own sign, it's also in its own house because you are the template of the universal chart. So that really enhances all of these transits where it's like a double influence. Neptune rules the 12th and it's in its own sign. So actually I'd say that was triple the influence. So Neptune retrograde in the 12th house, what could that have provided? Well, if you have tapped into the Akashic records, gotten a past life, regression in recent months, maybe you have already explored this area in some way and didn't even realize it was connected to this. Sometimes it can make conscious some of these unconscious influences, but it can have a disillusioning effect because this is the house of illusion or delusion, and also the house of past life influences. And sometimes when you delve into that, it can possibly be quite unsettling because even if you, my personal feeling is if I don't remember something, isn't there a reason for me not to remember it? Because, think about your own childhood and some of the more traumatic memories, if you have any, or the past. And you have memory of these things. Some people don't, but some people do. And imagine all your past lives having total recall. How would that impact your daily life? So now you can, function in a more idealistic way as it relates to these 12th house matters. On the 30th, and that also includes your dream state. So I don't know if any of you, when Neptune has been retrograde, if you've had nightmares even. That I'd be curious to know if they've increased. I think Neptune went retrograde in June, so it would be the last few months. And then on the 30th, we have a lunar eclipse at 8 degrees of Gemini, friendly angle, third house, the conscious mind, the practical, or what do they call the mundane knowledge. Lunar eclipse can bring more spiritual downloads to this practical area. This may be on the more mundane level, finishing some kind of a training, finishing a blog that you have created. The third house is communication, including the internet, because that is a major source of communication these days. So something along those lines. But it's an eclipse, so it can be a very, what's the word? Decisive, maybe is a good word, ending to some area of life. That this also connects to your local area. And so sometimes I wonder if people have lunar eclipses in the third house, if they are letting go of the current place that they reside and all of the neighbors, the sights and sounds that they form attachments with because they know they're going to move house or something like that. Because you will have, new beginnings here, and even a solar eclipse here next June. So this area will be impacted again in about 7 months. Okay, well, this is what I have for you, Aries, and I hope that this... one more thing I want to say, too, is that the third house can be siblings, too, and extended family members. So any kind of change in the status of those relationships can be featured as well. So I hope that this resonated. If you'd like a private reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.